According to all the known rules of the corporate gaming industry, an indie publisher should not be able to make a good game. Its budget is too small, it lacks manpower. However, any indie game development team can still make successful games. How do they do that? Indie game development teams simply do not care about what corporate world thinks it's impossible or not in game development. And that's the spirit that I want to promote tonight. Hello everyone, I'm Adrian, the president of Transylvanian Association for Gaming and Art Projects, and I would like to officially welcome you all tonight to tonight's panel talk. Huge thanks to Double Decker for the space and our partners at Freeze Life and Contermis Labs for supporting this event. Now, without further ado, please give a warm welcome and a round of applause for our speaker tonight, Nico Bartels.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, so I'm going to give a presentation about rapid prototyping. Let's get right into it. You all start somewhere as a level 10 grunt prototyper, but by the end of this, I hope we all can be like high-level end boss jammer. So, starting off, I'm Nico Bartels. Why should you care? I started making games in high school, like many others maybe, but we all start from many different places, right? And I started playing by playing League of Legends semi-professionally for a long while, for around like 10 years, which makes you think about game design and game development a little bit earlier on. What I'm trying to prove here, what I'm trying to show here is that a lot of people already had lots of interactions with games and like thinking about the design of them, and you can get them from many different places. I had other games where Age of Mythology in the editor was playing, making lots of games, or T-World servers, stick fight animations when I was around 7, and now I finished my bachelor's in game design this summer, and I shipped 2 game modes commercially during that during internships at Winkeltje, which is a shopkeeping type of game. Now I work full-time on my indie game for now about half a year, and I made roughly 40 game prototypes in the last 5 years. And that's what I want to talk about today, is like how to get through the prototyping phase quickly, what I learned, and how to make the most out of it. I hope I won't be too yappy, so let's get into it with a quick summary. So what I'm going to talk about is a short thing about games, what are games, keeping it short, and then why are we prototyping to begin with? What are we trying to accomplish with that? Then a little thing about game development cycle, and then going into game jams and why they're so great. I'll show some example projects and how they came to be, and then I'll give a bunch of prototyping tips and practices that I learned throughout the years. So first, what is a game? We can ponder really hard about what games are, and fundamentally, it's whenever you just participate in some joyous things. So they can be a lot of things, and that's something I think is really important to start off with, right? It's like it's art with emotions. You make people feel something. So it can be anything. You don't need to be restricted by what games on Steam are or what games on the Switch are. So you can make just something that's really fun and entertaining and interactive. So that includes games like Game of Life, which is theoretically not a game. You can make mathematical fractals and build a little explorer for that if you're mathematically inclined. Or interactive screensavers in real-life interaction art installations. So those are also great things. And there's plenty more. And those all fall under the terms of prototyping, and I want to cover like most of these things. So no matter your background, this is like for prototyping in general. So why do we prototype? There's 2 ways to think about this. There's for the fun, for the hobby, for the for realizing your fantasy, basically, on a hobby basis, where you make your fantasy a reality. You find fun in something, and then you make it work for someone else. You take an idea, and somebody else can experience it, right? So through prototyping, you can learn the implementation flow. You can learn about how you can make people feel the things you intended for the experience to be, right? And then on the other hand, we have for business, and those shares lots of things with making games or making prototypes as a hobby, but also they're for the more business side of things, right? So for testing a market research or evaluating long-term viability of an idea, etc., all those long big words, and that can take the time and the fun out of things. So for this presentation, I want to focus more on the for fun part of prototyping, because that's where the spirit is, that's where we start. So before we ever get to business, we have a passion for what we're doing, right? This is like the heart of game development, is we care. So I want to talk about this and make this the best experience possible. There's also, when you do prototyping, when you're done with that, you enter production. This is like a Dark Souls, deep catacombs kind of picture, if you can't see. We will not be talking about production. That's an evil, dark place. We will not be going there today. There's a general development map. I'll walk you through it quickly. There you start with usually an ocean of ideas, plenty of things you could do. There's infinite things, right? Ideas are cheap. There's a million billion ideas. And then you end up in the desert of dead projects, and maybe one makes it through. That's where you get to the clearing of clarity, and you start working your things. You go through the slog swamp, over the scope creep, through many, many panels of finishing the game, right? But again, we'll focus on this first part. This is where the fun is at. There's no additional things that you need to finish something. This is just this is the fun part. This is the exciting prototyping area. And a good way to get into prototyping is by joining game jams. This is the general, yeah. So this is generally what people a lot do in public. There's publicly hosted game jams where you can come together with like-minded people and work on a little project for a specified amount of time. And that is basically the fun part about it. You get people, different types of people, you go together and make something that you could find interesting. I do have to say, however, you need to be careful about crunch culture. Since this is a passion-based industry, it is highly incentivized in a lot of places to work a lot more than you should. And game jams, unfortunately, fall also under this if you don't consciously think about it. Right, so you have 48-hour game jams that makes you maybe work 24, 36 hours in those times. You could do that, but you could also not. It's also a choice that you need to actively make to not do that. You might have a worse product by the end, but you don't do it for the product, you do it for yourself. You need to be aware of that. So, as Jesse said, right, so health must come first, or else evil can't prosper. Now I want to go through some example projects. I just did some recordings of these from one of my latest game jams. This was one about a kitchen. This one is called Kitchen Nightmares. And it started pretty fun. You just said like, idea, oh, what if you cook with organs? Isn't that fun? Right, so how can we make that work? And like, okay, you're just like a weird tentacle guy and there's like people sending you orders. So, I hope you can see it. Yeah, you can put your order in, it tells you what you need to do, and then you mix those things on the crafting table. And then we just ran with the idea. We said like, okay, so what if you run out of resources? And I'm gonna speed up a little bit because the recording is a bit short. So now you go out into the world, and we didn't get time to make actual people. I had a skeleton thing, so you can cut them and take the organs and use those to cook, right? So we just had this random idea of like, oh, what if you cut somebody up? Like what we wanted was to have a slot machine as well, to do like ding, 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 ding. It's like, oh, liver, heart, and you got these out, right? So we just had a ton of fun with this, and by the end we had a cooking slaughtering simulator. I don't really know what this is, but it was hella fucking fun to work on. And you win by fulfilling orders, then you get to the end and the door falls over, you got scammed and the skeletons run away. So we just had hella fun with this. Then another one, this was for the Global Game Jam. This is called a crab story. I'm showing different projects because this one is very much focused on story. The theme was called Roots, and there we could explore different things. We're like, okay, a tree has roots, but so does culture and history and people. What are their roots about? And then we made a little story about that. So the main character is a hermit crab. So they don't really have roots. They go from one shell to another, and now they go to this village called Salty Pond, and there all the people have different ideas of like what are the roots, what are they here for, and how they integrate into that society, right? And that's just a little 48-hour game jam that we made about the idea of roots in a story. We did it up winning an award for Made Me Feel. And kids also loved this game. For some reason, they got lost in the world. They just explored everything, and they said like, "Oh, we love SpongeBob." Like, we didn't think about it, but then looking at it, yeah, it's very close. We also have water, underwater. It's like, yeah, fuck it, we don't care. It's a game jam, and we just have fun with it. Then, on a more serious note, or like a more serious type of game jam, this is Under the Mushroom. Here, the theme was a bullet hell game. And we thought, okay, this is mostly 2D games, so what if we made a 3D game? This one was inspired by mixing two games. It was Devil Daggers, which is an arena shooter, and CSGO Surfing, where you slide and jump a lot. And I really wanted to combine this movement with bullet hell in a 3D space. I haven't seen this before. I'm not sure if it worked, and we did, and it feels amazing. Fun fact as well, like, the main mechanic is a bug. If you crouch down and then you jump up, the collider pushes you up more than it should, and it felt amazing. And that's the beauty of game jams, where you realize things happen and you didn't intend them to, and they're cool, and you use them. You find the fun experimenting and just seeing what's up in there. This project ended up being my bachelor's project, and I was working with a publisher on getting this thing more polished up and potentially ready to go. Now it's on the shelf. I'm working on a different game, but that's a different story, because it was just really, really fun exploring the bullet hell and 3D platformer experience. And I'm still playing this occasionally, just jumping back and jumping around. One last thing that I wanted to add to this, that was a 2-week game jam, but we only worked on it 4 hours a day. And one of that was going to a park and chilling and talking about it. So we tried to have like a zero crunch game jam with this, and we had plenty of fun and a crazy good prototype for us at the end. So to us that was a total success, and shows that you can set your own boundaries for the game jam if you detract yourself from the grade that you get at the end, because you at the end have a nice thing that you made. Yeah, so how I prototype, I source my inspirations. As anyone, as any creative, we are sponges, right? So we take our inspirations from things like, easy one is fun games I played. Like, we all play games, I imagine, or most of us at least, or interactions, and that's a really good source of how to make things. But in my opinion, you can get it from all other places as well, like interesting movies or shows, or in real life experiences, like a hike. I think that's how a short hike came to be, for example. Then there's activism and belief. If you're unhappy about the world or want to talk about some of these things, then combining genre or also the game jam theme. They always run with a theme, and you can run with that and just make a game based on whatever they give you. Like if it's a bullet hell, you have a bullet hell game. I made some examples. So Under the Mushroom came from Devil Daggers and CSGO Surfing. Then Kitchen Nightmares was about an interesting movie or show that came from Gordon Ramsay, Kitchen Nightmare. Then in real life experience, that is the crab story as I showed earlier, I made a game called Trashville, where you clean up. It's kind of like a Stardew Valley, but instead you pick up the trash and recycle that and get money for that. So that came from activism and belief. Then combining genre, this is the game I'm currently working on, Oath of the Necromancer, where we combined Vampire Survivors with Hades, because we wanted more story, we wanted more level design, more purpose behind it. And then game jam theme, there was a game called Duality, where it's a puzzle platformer, that's what they're called, but you control two characters at the same time. And then you need to use their jumps at the right time to get to the end of the puzzle and activate buttons on one side, collect keys on the other. So you can also run with the game jam theme if you find something cool. One of the biggest things, there's a billion things you could do, but the best thing, because games are difficult. They take forever to make. You need all the hats, all the things to make a game. So it's good to start with what you know. And then you can build your repertoire from there. So if you're a game designer, for example, it's easier to start with puzzles if you're already familiar with how to make some interesting puzzles, or card games are very system-based. Or you could do mysteries or visual novels if you're more inclined on the narrative side. Those are very low priority on the other art sections, and have like a good starter. I have some other ideas as well for like programmers. Those are usually really good simulations usually. One of the classic ones is Boyd's, as you can see in the bottom right. It's the movement behaviors of birds that flock together. This is not many lines of code, and it already looks fantastic, right? So you can do so many things with just code, no art, no game design whatsoever, just your code and vibes. And I have to mention Dwarf Fortress. They used ASCII art for like 20 years, so you can run with anything and make a crazy good game by just being a programmer as well. Same for artists. We got games like Gris or A Short Hike or Journey, which are heavily art-inspired and feel more like an experience than a game. And they're absolutely fantastic in their own right as well. So, but what I want to come back to is what we usually think game development is like is all these different categories and sections of like programmer and artist and game designer, but that's not the case at all. We're much more intertwined. And paradoxically, if you want to be a good game designer, you need to know about some of the art aspects of things. You need to know some of the programming to know how you can implement your ideas well and work with a team. So again, game jams are an amazing way to become better at what you maybe mainly do by doing other things as well. You get a feeling for them, you know how to communicate with your friends and peers. So it's always great to learn other things. Or you get by. If you know 3D art by any chance, this is a war crime. But I got a face on the character by the end, and it worked out fine. So you can get away with a lot of things in games, because we are not engineers. We are magicians. It's all smokes and mirrors. So we just create the illusion of the game, of the experience that you're making, and then you run with it. I strongly recommend having like a type of like schedule for game jams, so you keep track of time a little bit, so it doesn't go out of hand, because one of the most frequent things that happen is that you don't finish a game on time. Yeah, everywhere, not even just game jams, also real games. A schedule that I've been following for a while now is the 30-30-30. So you start by 30% of the time, you just ideate, you just get ideas together with a mind map or something, you talk about what you can do. And then in 30% of the rest of the time, you develop it, and then you test it and iterate on it. And it's important that you spend at least 30% of your time on that if you want it to be an experience that you can share with others. Because there are so many things that show up with people that test your game that you cannot believe. Like, maybe you've all seen it, it's crazy. So testing, very important. Also, at least 10% for the things that will go wrong in a game jam. There always goes something wrong, you can't account for it, it will happen. So some time for that is always nice to plan. And that brings me to the business word MVP. But that's because, well, I like this quote a lot. It says, "We do this not because it is easy, but because we thought it would be easy." So what can we do to fix this? I suggest making the smallest possible interaction within your game. So if you think about, oh, I want to be a barista that sells coffee, what is the minimum interaction? It's like there's a guy coming in, or a person, and then you give him a coffee. That is the interaction. So you work towards that, and then you add scope from there, right? So you get to the core of your game. Anything else is fluff, and you can add it later. That's the notorious backlog. You can have this, it's kind of like almost like a belief system where like, yeah, put it on the backlog, we will get to that. And it's a freeing thing to say as a developer, because it makes you not think about adding it now and focusing on what you should focus on first. It's the interaction. Then just think about the scope. If you can roughly estimate if you can finish what you want to do with your smallest iteration in 30% development time, perfect. Then you're within the time frame and you can easily go for it and hit your goals. Because it feels good hitting goals. We should finish games. Then once you're done with your restrictions, just try and have fun. Try things. Try the wackiest things, just have fun with it. If you want to make a game, this is another slide before that. It says, silence data-driven decision maker, a vibes guy is talking. This is game jams, just have fun. So if you want to make a game where you have a gun, where you shoot mice that get put in the chamber by putting a cheese in front of it, go for it. If you want to make a chess RPG game, like chess tactics, try. Or if you just want to shoot skeletons with shotguns, you can do anything. Also, if you're more tech inclined, try a different engine, try a different section of game development. This is all about experimentation and finding out what you do. And most of my takeaway tips go to very specific practices you can do that help you get to your ideas and what you want to do. So for the concepting phase, I very much recommend a brainstorm mind map. This is where you toss on everything that you think. If it's good or not, you don't value it, you just toss it on there, you build like a mind map of things, and you get so many ideas to choose from that you don't even know what to do. Another fun one is just a, wouldn't it be funny if? So that gets you thinking about like just wacky things and run with them. This is how they make usually cartoon shows, and it's a and if, or like just continue with the joke and see where you go. This builds really cool narrative and you can just do some crazy fun things with it. In the development stage, a start is having a paper prototype. I can show one after this slide, I think I added one. Especially for puzzles, it's amazing, but also for some kind of combat games, you can easily make paper prototypes, or narrative designers can like make paper prototypes super easily. They're super accessible, quick to make, look fun, and you can test your things even earlier, which is always good. Then, as dirty as possible, if there are any programmers here, don't even touch abstract classes or anything too crazy. You just spit and duct tape. Because all we care about is, as we say, the smoke and mirrors. We just make up everything. It's about illusions and fake interactions. For game jams, that works absolutely perfectly. You can always exchange that later, because the goal is to figure out the fun, not the system, how it works behind it. Then for testing, what worked really well for me is letting players play the game, and you don't explain them anything. You just say like, okay, it's a game underwater, and you can go there, and it's like fun. Maybe. Try it out. And then you see what they do. And this is what's going to tell you what you need to fix. Because they will do something you will never expect 3 times. And then you can fix that. And that's like the best way to get the weird results and to get it playable. And then once you're over that step, people really enjoy things. And they stick to those usually. I had a game that was a procedurally generated dungeon crawler. And you could shoot arrows. And you could jump off of your own arrow if you shoot it up. And then people played it for an hour, just jumping off of their own arrows, flying out of the game. They were not playing the game anymore. They were just pogo jumping on their own arrows. And that's something they really enjoyed. So that's a whole game I could have made about that. And that's what you find out through testing, through letting them have some fun and interacting with the systems. And testing more than once, just constantly. It's really helpful. Yeah, so I don't know how well you can see this, but I made a light mirror-based puzzle game for a Zelda-like game. And to test it beforehand, I added pins and thread. And then I put the thread around a yellow pin, and then you could connect them and solve the puzzles on paper. This was an amazing tool for testing bot puzzles, and I could concept up to 100 different puzzles before we even got the game to prototyping phase, which is really good pace, especially for a paper prototype. Then, free content. There's amazing free content everywhere. In the beginning, I didn't use much free content because I thought it would be less of my project then, but what I now think is whatever I put into the game makes it my game, and it's how I use the things. And otherwise, you can also create your own assets and use them later as well. But for free assets, we got CannyNL, one of the best art assets out there. We got so many free sound orgs and many more. I can provide you with a ton of lists of links if you want to know more. And once you're done with the game jam, it also helps to just think back of what did you want out of your project? How did it go, and how did it meet the deadlines? This is where you usually grow as a game developer, and gives you a bit more control over what you can do next time if you reflect a bit on like how things went and what you can improve, or what was really fun and what you can do more next time. Maybe there was an idea that you want to do next time as well. So there's always so many things you can take out of it. And yeah, that brings me to, I think, my last point, which is recycling. We love to recycle as game devs, some more than others, looking at you, FIFA, but which is really good, right? So we can use your code snippets from last game, you can use your art assets or sound effects. I still use art assets from my first ever game jam. I just have them ready, and I pop them in, and they work. It's amazing. For 2D or 3D games, that's like one of my best tips. This makes you develop much quicker and get you some really cool ideas. So, thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, now is the time. Also, there's a QR code for feedback. I would greatly appreciate that. I hope you feel it out. Oh.